Welcome to our Halloween episode. Second Halloween episode.
Welcome.
Apologies for everybody watching the video because last year we dressed up full full makeup and all sorts, and this year we have not done so. And I shall tell you for why. It's not Halloween.
No.
And I just
Oh,
can't get into the Halloween spirit this year. I think 'cause the year's just gone so quickly, doesn't
yeah.
feel like Halloween.
Yeah. It's just like we said in the last episode, life.
Life.
Just so busy at the moment. And
Yeah.
although I can dedicate time, obviously, for our pod, um, I can't dedicate any more time to like dressing up for Halloween. Sort of.
Just
We've got
even
nothing. We've got no
no,
Halloween decorations up or anything.
even just thinking about what to dress up for, I haven't got in me.
No,
I
just
haven't even got in
can't.
me.
Just
So
can't.
what we've done instead is we've got an episode based around all things Halloween,
Yes.
and you've seen from the title, it's horrifying Halloween homicides, and these are all different stories that have taken place on Halloween in different years, in different states,
Cool.
all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah. Well, there you go.
But before we start our episode, random blams, go.
I got a good one today.
I've got such great ones,
Oh,
but you go.
I got a little one, but I just thought this was wicked. So you know Friday the 13th?
I know it well.
Yeah, as in the film.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So
that
just the date, it comes out every year.
less well. So Jason Voorhees is the villain, the monster in Friday the 13th. So are you at all familiar with the film? Because otherwise this random blam is going to not mean anything to you.
If you told me the content of the film, I'd remember it. But to
Oh,
bring it from the vaults of my brain,
well, you've
there's
shut
no
it
way.
out to stop you
There's
getting nightmares.
no way that's happening.
So, in a nutshell, Jason Voorhees is, similar to like Michael Myers. Like you think he's dead and he just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's actually like human or, I mean, he is some kind of demon because he just can't be killed. But basically, it all centers around this lake. So, everyone's on holiday or these teenagers are messing around in the
Oh,
lake,
yeah.
going swimming and all that. And then, um, so he wears the hockey mask.
Yep.
Jason Voorhees, he wears the hockey mask. And, in quite a few scenes, you see him like in the lake and he comes walking out of the lake and then like kills these teenagers. And so when they did the filming of Friday the 13th, one of the divers that was there, like working on the filming in the lake, called Doug Klein. He actually constructed a model, a statue, life-size statue of Jason Voorhees, and took it down 120 feet into the lake and secured it there. And it is still there to this day.
Oh my gosh.
And apparently it's far enough down that only like the most advanced divers would ever actually go down that deep in the lake. But if they
Yes.
do, then there's this,
A surprise.
yeah, there's this statue of Jason Voorhees chained up at the bottom of the lake, 120 foot down. And I thought
That's
that
enough.
was so cool.
That's enough to make you inhale some water.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if when he told them and he said like, oh yeah, I've put this actual Jason Voorhees down at the bottom of the lake. I wonder if they thought, shit, like what if someone sees it and like goes into a mad panic and like drowns or something? Are we going to be liable or something? But for those
It could be an
advanced,
absolute lie.
could be. Absolutely could be. But I mean, if I lived anywhere near, where is it? Do do do. Louise near Crosby in Minnesota. I would be getting my diving qualifications and going down there. I'd be all about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
No, wicked.
All right. Well, my random blam is so Josie sent it to me a little while ago, just a screenshot of something. She sent it to me, and I looked at it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?
Hmm?
What am I supposed to do with this information?" She was like, "Oh, it'd be good for a random blam," and I was like, "Oh, it would be great for a random blam." So this is for you and for our listeners to guess. So the deadliest animals worldwide by annual number of human deaths as of 2022. Number one, what do you think the most deadliest animal that has killed the most people?
Hippo.
No. Hippopotamus is on the list,
Ooh.
but not first.
It's going to be something small. I would have thought like some sort of like mosquito or
Oh,
fly.
that's it. Mosquito. Yeah.
Yay!
So mosquito is up there with 1 million human deaths.
Oh, that's a proper serial killer.
Yep. Next one.
Yeah, I just said that like it was one mosquito.
One mosquito serial killer.
Yeah.
That's going to be a
One
chonky
mosquito. Body count of 1 million. Sorry, guys.
No.
Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to guess that as well.
Guess
Number two. So
something that absolutely terrifies me because there's just no need for them.
just no need.
No need at all.
Wasps.
No. Snakes.
Oh, I like snakes.
Oh, no, it's not that there's no need for them. There's no need for the amount of venom that they contain. Why does an animal need enough venom to kill 4 people?
Because
like in one bite?
Because I'll tell you why. I've got the answer for that. Because humans are pricks.
No. Yeah, but they don't need enough venom to kill 4 of them in one bite. That's not doable.
They're just effective. They're just like efficient, effective little
and that
worms.
is why they're up there as number 2. However, there's a massive jump down though. So that serial killer mosquito, 1 million deaths.
Right.
Snakes are only 100,000.
Oh, okay. So I mean, snakes sound like they're a little bit more lenient.
Yeah. Number 3.
That one snake that's taken out 100,000.
Number 3, you will never guess number 3.
Oh, okay. Is it humans?
No.
No,
these are animals.
Yeah, well.
It's all animals.
Well, if I'll never guess it, then we could be here all day.
Dogs.
No.
Dogs.
No.
30,000 humans.
Oh.
Yep. And then I'll tell you the next one down.
Go on.
Freshwater snails. Number 4.
Fucking hell.
They come in at 20,000.
Yeah, they come in at 20,000, but they come in slowly.
Good one. Right, number 5. I didn't even know this was a thing, but now these are my new thing that I'm terrified of.
Yeah.
Assassin bugs.
No, my sister's got some of them.
Oh my God. So let's get rid of them. They kill 12,000 people.
Well, Tess, who's my sister, let me know, because she had an assassin something, and when she was putting it in its lovely new home, it they like yeah, it pulled out a gun and it was yeah, she got burned by it, and I think that was it. I mean, my sister's had a lot of hideous, dangerous things, but
freshwater snails, watch your back.
Yeah, I know. They're the slow, deadly assassins. Yeah.
So after assassin bugs, you've got tsetse flies.
I don't know what that is.
No, me either. But they come in at 10,000 kills.
Ooh.
And then Ascaris roundworms come in at 2,500.
Oh, that's quite a lot for a worm.
I think it's just a parasite, isn't it?
Ooh. Oh, like a worm inside you kind of worm, do you
Yeah, I'm
reckon?
guessing a roundworm. That's like a tapeworm
Not
type
not
thing.
like an earthworm
Not
where
like
they're
an
all
earthworm.
ganging up and you go out to your car and there's like loads of them.
Just
Wiggling.
take you down. And then after roundworms,
Hmm.
crocodiles. Can you
Oh,
imagine the crocodiles, the deadliest predators on the earth? Crocodiles getting beaten by
I
roundworms.
know. If they knew, honestly, they'd be fuming.
They're
They'd
at
be like, we need
assassin
to step it
school.
up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Murder
yeah.
school going, come on, guys. Getting beaten by snails.
Crocodiles scare the shit out of me.
Yep. After crocodiles,
Hmm.
tapeworms.
No.
Yep, tapeworm.
Mad.
And then hippopotamuses.
Yay.
Then elephants.
Oh, yeah.
Then lions. African Cape buffaloes. Deer. And then bees.
Goodness.
I know, but I was so shocked that because
That's,
you imagine you immediately think the most human deaths caused by an animal is going to be a lion or a
yeah.
crocodile.
Or a
That's
shark.
or a shark. Shark's not
Yeah.
even on there.
I know.
Not even on there.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Mosquitoes,
Proper
snails,
mind blow. Yeah, I know.
bugs.
I didn't think there'd be so many like worms on the
Yeah,
top 10.
you take these little buggers for granted. They are going
Yeah.
to take you down.
You take a snail for granted, it will sneak up. It might take 2 years, but it will sneak up on you.
Sneak up.
Yeah. Phew.
Anyways, that was my random blam.
That was good. I enjoyed that. Thanks
Yeah,
to you and thanks to Josie
Rosie
for
sent it to me.
recommending it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cheers.
Random blams. Done.
Done.
I was going to say over. Random blams over. And then I was like, that's not correct.
That doesn't work.
People wouldn't know that it was done.
Yeah. They'd be
Still
like,
expect
that's
more.
it. The random blams are over. Never to be done again. Morning.
Morning.
I should have
Gotta
done a
try
more
and do like
Halloweeny morning.
morning.
Morning. Morning, morning.
What would Mothman do?
Well, Mothman would be like, Watto,
What good morning?
morning, morning. What a perfect day for mothing. That's it. That's what he'd
Is
say.
that what he does?
Yeah, that's what he'd say.
Great.
Yeah.
I wish that I could bring you a Mothman story today on Halloween.
So
However, I don't have any more Mothman stories. Instead, I've got a. Do you know what word just popped into my head then? Trailuge.
supercalifragil. Oh,
No, I've got a trailuge of homicide stories, but I don't think that's the
trailuge.
right word.
Well, I mean, we can make it a word. It's our
Do I
part.
say it?
Yeah, just say it.
Trailuge.
Trailuge.
All right, I've got a trailuge of horrifying Halloween homicides for you guys.
Do you know what? You've just started something because now I'm thinking we just speak perplexed. That can be a language. So in future, I'm not going to try and edit out any of the words that actually to the rest of the world don't exist.
No, because
If you
in the
hear it
last
here,
episode,
you hear it here first.
yeah, in the last episode, you made me re-record a little bit because I said envelope instead of envelop.
Yeah, well, I'm not
And
going
he
to do
was
that
like,
anymore.
no, don't do that anymore because
No.
that's fine if he enveloped.
What was the thing on the last episode that we could not stop laughing at? And I
Oh,
can't
because
remember what it was, but
it
honestly,
was a visage, a
oh God,
visage,
of course
and
it
it
was.
was the sentence was he saw the visage or visage of the woman in the mirror, and I didn't know which way was right, and I didn't want to get it wrong, so I said it, and then I looked at Kate
Well,
and I was
you
like,
stopped us, didn't you? You
"Yeah,"
said,
I said, "Is that right? Is that
and in the
wrong?"
mirror he saw, and then you stopped
The
and you went,
visage of
"Hang
yeah.
on, is it visage or is it visage?" And I was like, I don't know, visage, visage is fine, I reckon. You were like, okay, and we kind of had a little bit of a giggle about it, and
Yeah.
then started it again and you changed it completely, but then
Yeah.
that really made us laugh.
Yeah, I didn't want to run with it because I knew either way was going to be wrong. So I just saw the image. It made us laugh for ages.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Like, words don't word.
No.
They don't.
I don't think words need to word on our podcast. People know what we're about. They've stuck around.
They know we're not professionals.
They know we're not professionals. We don't ever try to be professionals.
We've declared it enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just roll with it. So from here on in, we've done 100 episodes, really trying and editing a lot of bits out and that. And I think the next 100, I think let's just roll with it.
Do you remember our first episode when we was like, oh, we're gonna have to edit out all the ums and
Yes.
ahs, and spent so long editing out all those tiny little editing them all out for you guys. Now fuck off. You're getting them.
Yeah, here they come.
Here they come.
Like tiny assassin water snails. They're creeping in without you even realising. Then all of a sudden, blam! Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well.
So let's crack on, shall we?
All right.
So, in this special Halloween episode that I'm going to tell all of you, some horrifying homicides that all have something in common, and they all happen on the scariest day of the year. Halloween. All Hallows Eve. Whatever you want to call it. And why is that?
What?
That all these crimes happen on Halloween. Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe it's spirits returning from the dead on All Hallows Eve. Maybe.
Statistics say that violent crimes increase or can increase by as much as 50% on Halloween.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yep. So it could be due to the water snails. It could.
Yeah. They come out on Halloween.
It could be due to that increased in parties, Halloween parties, and therefore drugs and alcohol and things like that. And obviously people do silly things.
Silly.
Under the influence of drugs and alcohol. The fact that people are perhaps out of their houses.
Mm-hmm.
So either the house is vacant or perhaps that they're actually physically on the streets at dark, and then people can take advantage of that. Halloween pranks gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just evil people being able to take advantage of the fact that it is the scariest night of the year? So I'll let you decide what categories these fall into.
All right.
So the first one that I'm going to talk to you about is something that terrified me as a child and also as an adult. And I remember my mum being specifically conscious of it as well. And I didn't realise this is where it emanated from. And it is called the Candyman. So on the evening of the 31st of October 1974, 30-year-old Randy Clark O'Brien, his wife Daneen, and their two children, Timothy, who was 8, and Elizabeth, who was 5, started Halloween evening with a meal at the home of a family friend, Jim Bates, and his wife and children in Pasadena, Texas. They dressed up in their Halloween costumes and obviously excited for the evening. The children sat around the table, eating their dinner, talking about how many sweets they're going to get, what kind of sweets they're going to get, you know, all of the normal Halloween chatter. And when the parents couldn't contain them any longer, they said, right, let's be done with your meal. And they finally took the children out into what was a very dark, drizzly, rainy night. So Randy took his two children and Jim took just his young son. And they half ran, half walked up to each house. And, you know, they knocked, waited patiently for someone to answer the door. And then they would take one sweet from the bowl, like good children do. Just one sweet, please.
Always, yes.
Stuffed it into their bags and legged it to the next house. No house was left untargeted. So we have a rule that if a house doesn't have any lights on or decorations, then we don't knock. That they obviously don't want to be they don't want children upon their doorstep, so we leave them be. However, these children had no such rule. That every house was a target. They came upon a large house up the street that was fully dark, not a single light on. Yeah, up they walked, up the driveway. They knocked on the door, kind of already knowing that they wasn't going to get anything, so they didn't really hang about too much. They knocked on the door and thought, no one's going to answer. And then they ran off back down the driveway, then up to the next house. And they left Randy there waiting at the house just in case someone opened the door.
Sod that.
He was quite willing. He was like, oh, you go off ahead and I'll wait.
I'm willing to risk my life for candy.
And they were in luck. And before long, Randy caught up with the children just a few houses up, holding in his hand 5 large pixie sticks. We don't call them pixie sticks. I don't really know what we call them other than, no, you're not having that. It's full of sugar.
Oh, I know what you mean.
One of those sticks.
Those straws.
Tubes, yeah. Straws literally full of coloured powdered sugar that children literally just neck down. They just tip it straight into their gullet and then it goes straight to their hyperactivity centre. So Randy came back with 5 like large ones, not little ones, large ones of these. So Randy said just as they left the house, someone came to the door and handed him the sweets. So he gave one to his son, one to his daughter, one to Jim's son, and then later on in the evening, he would give one to Jim's 5-year-old daughter. And then the last one he gave to a random child that just so happened to trick or treat at their home later on that evening. And all of the children quickly stuffed them into their bags and then just carried on trick or treating. And later that evening, when Randy and his children were back at home, Timothy asked his dad if he could have just one thing from his giant haul before he went to bed. And we let our children do the same. They were allowed one sweet that evening, and then we kind of rationed them out throughout the rest of the year. So they tend to, when we say to our kids, you can have one sweet, they tend to rifle through their bags and they find the biggest one they could possibly get. And Timothy did exactly the same. So he pulled out the giant pixie stick from amongst all the other items that he had in his bag. Pulling apart the top that had been stapled closed. It's pinched at the top and then stapled closed.
Yeah.
Timothy popped it open. He tipped back his head and then upended the stick into his mouth. Mm-hmm. However, none of the sugar came out.
Oh.
So he was like, went to his dad and said the sugar's not coming out. So it appeared that some of the sugar was all clumped together and that's why it wasn't coming out. So Randy got something in there and he managed to break it all up and then gave it back to Timothy, and Timothy once again tipped his head back and then poured the sugar straight into his mouth. But it wasn't the sweet, tangy sugar that he was used to tasting. However, Timothy complained that the powder was bitter tasting and then he didn't want to finish the rest. So Randy went and got his son some Kool-Aid and said, here, drink this. It'll get rid of the nasty taste. Before long, Timothy was doubled over, clutching his stomach, and began to complain of severe stomach pains. He immediately ran to the bathroom where he cried out for his dad and began vomiting all over the place. Oh, so Randy rushed in and held Timothy as he began to convulse and foam at the mouth. An ambulance was called, but Timothy died en route to the hospital less than an hour later.
Oh, shit.
An autopsy of little Timothy revealed that he had ingested a lethal dose of cyanide, and it was quickly revealed the source of cyanide was the pixie sticks he had gotten that evening.
Bloody hell.
So police very quickly set about locating the remaining 4 sticks. And luckily, 3 of them were found before any of the children had got round to ingesting them. The parents of the little boy that had knocked at Randy's house that evening and Randy had given in that last pixie stick.
Yeah.
They, however, were absolutely panic-stricken because police located them. They explained what had happened about these pixie sticks and said they could contain cyanide. And when the parents searched through their son's candy bag, they couldn't find it. So they ran upstairs to where their son was in bed, and they actually found that he had fallen asleep with this pixie stick in his hand. He'd tried to open it, but couldn't. It was stapled closed, and he couldn't quite get the staples open. He'd just fallen asleep with it in his hand.
Oh, thank God. Blimey.
On testing, it was clear that each pixie stick had been opened and laced with enough cyanide to kill 3 to 4 adults. The top had then been folded back over and resealed with a staple. So Randy was questioned by the police, as to what house he'd gotten these pixie sticks from. He tried to retrace his steps around the neighborhood, but it was dark out when they went. He wasn't actually quite sure what house it had been. It was a friend's house as well, so it wasn't his neighborhood. It was his friend's neighborhood, so it wasn't too familiar with it. Police questioned the neighboring houses, and no other children had received any pixie sticks from any houses that they had been to that evening. So they questioned Randy again. They walked that area 3 times with the police, and eventually Randy was able to locate which house had given him the sweets. But Randy was unable to give a description of the man that had produced the pixie sticks to him, saying that the door only opened enough for the man to reach out a hairy arm and give him these pixie sticks. So he kind of just opened the door a little bit and shoved the sticks through.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bizarre at all, does it?
No, yes, thank you. I'll take these and give these to my children.
Yeah, thank you, hairy arm.
The owner of the house was a man named Courtney Melvin, and he actually wasn't home at the time that police knocked on his door. But they managed to track him down at his place of work, William Hobby P. Airport, where they promptly arrested him in front of all of his colleagues. Police took Courtney to the police station, where they questioned him about the events that had happened on Halloween. And it turned out that Courtney had been at work that evening, where 200 people vouched for him. Jeez. His wife and daughter had been home and had turned out their lights in the hope that trick-or-treaters wouldn't knock on their door, because they'd actually run out of sweets. So they just sat in, had a cozy night in, turned off all the lights. So now suspicion turned to Randy, and police started doing some digging. And they found out that Randy had taken out a $10,000 insurance policy on both of his children in January of that year. And then a month before Halloween, he had taken out an additional policy of $20,000 on each child, bringing the total to $60,000. They found that he was over $100,000 in debt. He had missed many payments on his debt, and his car and house were in the process of being repossessed. And they also found that the morning after Timothy had died, Randy had made a call at 9 a.m. to the insurance policy company, asking whether he could cash in on his now dead son's policy.
Oh my God.
So this was enough for police to get a search warrant for his home, where they found a pair of scissors with some plastic still stuck on them. And on the plastic was some powder residue, which was then tested and revealed to be cyanide. He was instantly arrested for the murder of his son and then the attempted murder of 4 other innocent children. Throughout the trial, Randy maintained his innocence. However, many people tested against him, and it took a jury 46 minutes to convict Randy, and he was sentenced to death by electric chair. He waited on death row for almost 10 years, appealing and reappealing, and until he had exhausted all options. And on the 31st of March 1984, Randy Clark O'Brien was put to death by lethal injection, as the judge ruled that the electric chair was too inhumane. And Randy became known as the Candyman, or the man that killed Halloween.
Goodness. And
parents became incredibly protective of their children after this event, scared that their children would be receiving poison-laced sweets when they went out for Halloween. But there has never been another case of poison-laced Halloween sweets since.
Bloody hell.
I hate the fact that the judge was like, "Oh, we can't use the electric chair. That's not very nice, is it?" but he was
no.
quite happy to kill his son with cyanide, which has got to be the worst thing ever.
Oh, it's hideous. And the
Yeah.
fact that his son called him and said that he had tummy ache.
Yeah.
No, that's awful. And it's like the ultimate betrayal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, because Halloween, you take your precious children out to, get candy from the neighbors, and and you've got that trust in people.
Hmm.
But it's scary, isn't it? For someone to do something like that, it's like, yeah, no wonder he was known as the man who killed Halloween, because
Yeah.
as if any of those parents at that time, they would never have felt safe, their
No,
children
don't.
going out
Even now,
ever.
I didn't know where this had come from, but even now, we're like, don't take anything from anyone that's opened. Don't
Yeah,
take
yeah,
anyone, like, just in case it is laced with poison or someone's tampered with the sweet in any way, shape, or form.
yeah,
And I think that fear stems from this story
yeah. No, I
because
mean, I try and do the responsible thing by eating most of the kids' sweets
you
when
for
they're
them,
in
yeah.
bed. Yeah. And I'm like, it's for your own safety. And they're like, you ate all of them. And I'm like, uh-huh,
I had to check.
I love you. I love you and you're welcome.
Absolutely, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
hideous.
But yeah, I remember that. I didn't know that that's where that had come from until I started doing some research. And yeah, so there's never been another case of poisoned lace sweets. However, there was a case of someone putting a razor blade in some sweets that was given out at Halloween.
I heard that. I mean, I didn't know if that was an actual real thing or whether that
Apparently
was
so.
like one of those urban legends.
No,
Hmm.
apparently so. Oh, I thought this was an urban legend actually. Someone had laced like sweets with
Yeah.
poison. I thought that was an urban legend.
Hmm. Turns
No,
out, no.
not at all. Watch out.
Boom. Truth.
So I think that was a case of someone that was quite clearly evil, taking advantage of the
Definitely.
Halloween, and using Halloween as a almost guise,
Yeah.
um, to cover up his crime.
100%.
Um, this next episode comes with a bit of a trigger warning. It does contain information on rape and murder of a child. So Lisa Ann French was born June 2nd, 1964, and lived in the city of Fond du Lac in Wisconsin. On Halloween evening 1973, being 9 years old, she was just as excited as all the other children to go trick-or-treating. I don't know about you, but Hayley loves Halloween.
Yeah, I love
Loves
Halloween.
it. So I don't know if all children are like that, but
Mm.
she was little Lisa was super excited for Halloween. She'd been planning to meet her best friend that evening so that they could walk together to go to a Halloween party. However, her best friend that evening informed Lisa that she had been grounded and was no longer allowed out.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa decided to go trick-or-treating on her own, and she dressed up as a hobo, wearing a black felt hat, a green Parker jacket, tattered jeans, which she had covered with masking tape, and then penned freckles on her face. Lisa left her house around 5:45 that evening. The first house she went to was just up the road, and it was the house of one of her classmates. And she knocked on the door, she shouted trick or treat, and received a handful of sweets for her efforts. The next house she went to was also nearby, and it was the house of one of her school teachers. So she again knocked on the door, and when it was opened, she shouted trick or treat, and again received a handful of sweets, which she shoved into her bag.
Mm.
She then went to another of the neighbouring houses, Gerald Turner Jr. And from what I can find out, based on my math skills, he was about 23 years old. So Lisa was actually familiar with Gerald. So him and his girlfriend Aileen had a young child, and Lisa would often be allowed over to play with the child. So it wasn't unusual to Lisa that when she knocked on the door and Gerald opened it and she shouted trick or treat, that instead of receiving sweets, Gerald invited her inside. Gerald spoke to Lisa about all the sweets she'd gotten so far, and they kind of wandered through the house, and Lisa followed him as they chatted, until Lisa realised that they'd ended up walking right into Gerald's bedroom. And before she had time to react, Gerald was on her, pinning her down on the bed, tearing off the Halloween costume that she had worked so hard to make, and began to rape her. And it's then unclear whether Gerald strangled Lisa to death or whether Lisa died from the shock of the attack. But when Gerald was finished, Lisa was dead. He states that he listened to her chest and heard her heart beating, but that she wasn't breathing. So he attempted to resuscitate her. But during the attempt, his girlfriend Arlene had actually just pulled up in the driveway and returned home with their young child. So he came down the stairs wrapped in a dressing gown, and he told Arlene that he wasn't feeling well and that he was going to go up into the bedroom and have a lie down. But Arlene wasn't in the house long before she decided to leave again and to go and see her mother. And after she left, Gerald put Lisa's body in a rubbish bag and then put her Halloween costume into a separate bag. He wore socks on his hands to make sure that he didn't leave his fingerprints, and made sure to wipe down Lisa's shoes and the zipper on her green Parker jacket. He then loaded them into his car and drove them to a farmer's field not too far away. Lisa's mother, Mary Ann, started to get a little bit worried when Lisa didn't return home for her curfew at 7 p.m. because she wasn't the type of child to break the rules. But she was given the benefit of the doubt. It was Halloween after all, and she was probably out on her way home, but just knocking at houses. But when Lisa hadn't returned by 10 p.m, Mary Ann called the police to report her daughter missing. A 4-day search of over 5,000 volunteers was conducted, which ended only when a farmer found 2 brown plastic bags behind a barbed wire fence on his property. The body of Lisa French. For reasons unknown, Gerald became a suspect very early on in the investigation into Lisa's murder, but it would take 9 months of police questioning before he would eventually confess and was inevitably convicted of her murder and sentenced to 38.5 years in prison. He would serve just 17 of those before being released, but actually ended up back in prison a few years later for violating his parole. Police found thousands of child pornography on his PC. And I believe he's still in prison to this day, and he's about 74 years old.
Jeez. What an evil bastard.
Yeah, so again, that's another case of somebody that is quite clearly evil and has just taken advantage of the availability of a child willing to knock on someone's house that evening. And then perhaps that child letting their guard down because it's Halloween.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you make. I think children, normally, children wouldn't walk up to all these random houses and knock on the door and stand there waiting, for the door to open. And it's the only night of the year that children do that.
Yeah, and children generally are out on the streets later than they would be.
Yeah.
So yeah. And this next case is also about a child knocking on a stranger's door. 12-year-old TJ Darasaur got ready for Halloween like any other child does. And I say any other child, I don't include my child in that because my child starts the Halloween prep months in advance.
Yeah.
Literally months in advance. After Halloween, she'll be like, oh, I know what I'm going to be next Halloween. Her prep starts
early.
Yeah, early. She likes to hand make her outfits, like not all of her outfits, but
she's
like,
so creative.
Mask and stuff like that. She loves it. So Halloween night, 2008, TJ was out with his entire family. So his mum, his stepdad, and his 2 other siblings. And they'd actually gone to like a street party. However, when the street party, it kind of ended quite early and they didn't want to just go home and that be it. So they decided to stop at some houses on the way home to trick or treat and fill up their party bags even more. So on the way home, Mum would stop at any house that had signs of life, whether it was decorated up for Halloween or not. If there was a light on, then people were home, and they were quite happy to knock on the door. So Mum would pull up in the car, stepdad would hop out and take TJ and his 9-year-old brother with him, leaving his infant son in the car with his wife. They would pop on their Halloween masks, knock on the door, get their treats, hop back in the car, and then go to the next one. Before they were due home, they decided to stop at one more house along the way. And this was the house of 22-year-old Quentin Patrick. Quentin was a convicted drug dealer, and he'd previously been charged in 2004 with a string of many different drug-related crimes, and had been released in January 2007 after serving only 5 months. Because at that time, there was a program for first-time offenders enabling them to get out of prison early and be rehabilitated back into society and back on the straight and narrow. So obviously, Quentin got straight back into the drug game. And a few weeks prior to Halloween, he'd upset a rival drug gang and was expecting some sort of retribution or revenge of some sort, and had also recently been robbed. His house had been robbed. He had 2 young children at home, so this made him a little bit more paranoid than normal. So as Mum pulled up to the house, the kids donned their masks, candy buckets in hand. TJ walked up to the front porch of the house. So excited at the prospect of more sweets, he actually raced his brother up the drive to make sure that he was first in line at the door. And once up the 3 steps of the small porch, he approached a traditional wooden door with 3 small windows across the upper section. Patrick was sitting on the sofa with his girlfriend and 2 small children watching TV when he heard a knock at the front door. Erica, who is Patrick's girlfriend, got up off the sofa. She walked to the front door, and instead of opening it straight away, she peered through the distorted glass panels at the top, and she screamed out in shock as she saw a crew of figures dressed in black wearing ghost face masks. Patrick immediately jumped up off the sofa. He grabbed his AK-47 assault rifle that obviously was nearby, despite the fact that he had 2 young children in the house. He raced to the front door. He pointed his gun at the closed front door and pulled back the trigger briefly, causing the fully automatic rifle to fire off 29 rounds in a matter of seconds.
Oh, for God's sake.
The majority of those bullets tore through the front door and right into little TJ's body and head. TJ's younger brother and his stepfather were also struck by the bullets. However, as TJ had been right at the front, he was directly in the firing line and he took the bulk of the bullets. He immediately collapsed to the floor, a pool of blood spreading out from underneath him, and his stepfather, despite being shot, raced to him and cradled TJ in his arms. Patrick set down his gun and opened the front door, and he took in the scene in front of him. A child lay dying on the floor, a second child injured and covered in blood, and a man screaming for help. And all Patrick could say was, "Oh no." He raced back into the house, grabbed his children and his girlfriend, and then fled the scene. However, when police arrived a few minutes later, Patrick had returned. He told police that he thought they were masked gunmen coming to rob him. He was subsequently arrested and charged with TJ's murder, 2 counts of assault and battery with intent to kill, along with multiple drug and gun charges. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, along with 16 years for the gun charges. His projected release date is October 2043.
And this was in 2008, you said, wasn't it?
Yep.
Stop
me if I'm wrong. But would that have happened if there was no guns in the house?
Let me think. No.
I don't understand and we mentioned this on the
I can't remember
what's his name. Ethan Crumbley episode. where I understand that you have the right to protect yourself and I understand the right to have a gun. Do
Yeah.
you need an AK-47 that fires off 29 rounds
I
at
guess
the
you do
slightest?
if you're in the drug trade, I guess.
Who needs? Why is that available to
My
anybody?
my if he'd spent any time looking, he would have seen that it was kids. And did it not occur to him that it was like Halloween time?
Yep.
And if they were masked gunmen, why on earth would they come up and just knocked on the door and waited? They'd have burst in and shot the place up if that's what they were there for.
Yep.
A
But
silly fucking idiot.
yeah. Yep. But yeah, I mean the fact that he had an AK-47, that's just
Yeah.
overkill, really, isn't it? That's just the most
Yeah.
stupidest thing.
It's
I'll
crazy.
never understand that.
I mean, I would have thought that if he was in the drug trade, I wouldn't have thought, my personal opinion, that he would have got that in any kind of legal circumstances.
Yeah. Well, he was a convicted
Oh,
felon, so he
well,
wouldn't have been
he
able
wouldn't
to.
then.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't stop people still from getting them, does it?
Doesn't know.
Um,
Bloody
even
hell.
though he was convicted, but some stores don't check and whatnot. So,
I wouldn't have thought he got it in a store.
let's hope not.
No.
Let's hope not.
Some dark alley behind a dumpster
Gosh.
at midnight. Yeah. Oh, that's horrible. That's really
Yeah.
horrible. And the fact that they were so excited as well, like
Yeah.
running up there to, oh.
So this is the last one that we've got, because there was quite a few more, but I didn't want to depress everybody by reeling
Too
off
much.
every single death that's ever happened on Halloween. So this is the last one, and this is quite a bizarre one.
Okay.
So Halloween 1981, two bodies were found at 7:40 p.m. in a Manhattan apartment. And the murder occurred on West 22nd Street, Manhattan, in a duplex that Ronald Seisman used as a residence and also a kind of home studio, a home photography place. He had a photography business. Ronald Seisman was 39 years old and he was a photographer, and he had a girlfriend, Elizabeth Platzman, who was 19 years old. He was a college student at Smith College, and they were actually at home that evening. They were having like a photo shoot in the house. And during this photo shoot, they heard incessant banging on the front door. Ronald stopped what he was doing. He opened the door, and it seems that the killer pushed his way into the apartment. He then subdued both victims and went about beating them savagely before shooting them both in the back of the head, execution style.
Bloody hell.
Police were called to the scene after neighbours heard gunshots, and when they arrived, they found that the apartment had been completely torn apart, like completely ransacked. Furniture was cut open, items were just scattered about all over the floor, and there was blood splatter all up the walls from the beating and obviously the shooting. They found that both victims' driving licenses were missing, and also a gun, 25 caliber pistol that was registered to Ronald, was also missing as well. And they think that was the potential murder weapon. Nothing else appeared to be missing from the home, though. And with nothing really to go on and no witnesses, no suspects, the police began to believe that it was probably drug related, because why else would somebody just
burst
commit that
in
crime
and
out of the blue?
do that? Yeah.
So they assumed that perhaps Ronald owed some money to some people. However, notorious serial killer David Berkowitz, the son of Sam murderer, who is currently serving time in prison, recently shared information that Ron and his girlfriend Elizabeth were both killed by associates of his that were members of a satanic cult. And they had previously employed Ronald as to record like a snuff video for them.
Oh, ew.
And he reckons that they had gone to the apartment to retrieve this snuff video or evidence of this snuff video and had ended up murdering these people. But the murder remains completely unsolved to this day.
Oh my goodness,
Yep.
really?
Yep. No idea who it was. There's absolutely no evidence left behind. And
Blimey.
yeah,
No leads or anything.
no leads. So whether it was just like a Halloween murder and it was just completely out of the blue, really
Yeah,
random.
random, yeah.
Who knows?
Crazy.
Lock your doors on Halloween, peeps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're
Just
going to check out the front to see who it is, make sure you have a proper good look before you
I'm
pick up your AK-47.
I'm
Start
taking all our
blasting.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to take all our Halloween candy to the front bedroom upstairs. And when kids and that come down the front drive, I'm just going to go, what do you want? And when they go trick or treat, I'm just going to throw candy out onto the driveway and just be like, now fuck off.
You
Yeah.
murderers!
Yeah. Go listen to Perplexed Podcasts and you'll understand why.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
don't do that.
No, I am what, please don't listen to Perplexed Podcast.
No, please don't shout at children in that tone.
Well, do you know what? One year, me and my sister went all out for Halloween. I used to be so into Halloween because I had time. And we properly like dressed up and I was dressed as a werewolf, obviously. And I sat in a chair in like by the front door, sat in a chair with a bowl of candy on my lap and kind of put my head to one side, like I looked like a mannequin or something, you
Mm-hmm.
know, something. And the kids came over and they'd reach over into the bowl like that. And at that precise moment, I'd throw the bowl of candy up in the air, leap up out of my seat and lurch towards the children with these great big werewolf hands like that. And I swear to God, there was two children on that particular night that I swear to God are still running now. It was the best time, honestly.
So
I had
funny.
such a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
That's
time.
what Hayley does. She likes to lay in wait. She goes trick-or-treating and then she like lays in wait she tends to go at Mike's and she lays in wait and waits for children to come up to the door and then scares the living bejesus out of them.
Honestly, it's the best time.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah, I love that. And in the end, parents wouldn't like the following year, parents wouldn't let their kids come up the drive to knock.
Did you ever go trick-or-treating in East Tilbury with the kids?
Yeah, I did.
They had some great houses. That's the best place I've ever been taking the kids trick-or-treating because
Yeah,
that people went all out and they would, like you say, they would sit in their front. Children were scared to go up to the
yeah.
door based on what the house looked like. They was like, no, I'm not going. You go, you go. And
There
they were
was
really
one that
scared to
had
go out.
like half a body. Do you remember
Yeah,
that one? Like creeping out across his drive, like from under the car. I think
yeah,
he had like a minibus or something. And
yeah,
yeah, that was cool.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're really, really, and some of them played like really creepy music as you go up to the door. And
so
yeah, I
cool.
love.
Yeah,
Wish people were more into it.
I know. We're not even going to be here this Halloween. We're going away.
Good.
Yeah, I
Props
know.
for the best, based on these
Props, yeah,
stories.
probably safer for the local
Yeah.
children anyway. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that is your Halloween episode this year.
I thank you very much.
You are
We loved
welcome.
that, didn't we, guys? We loved that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks very much. And next Halloween, we'll make sure that we put some time aside and
Yeah.
we'll dress up.
It's just snuck up on us,
It
Halloween.
has.
All of a sudden, it's like, oh no, the next episode, the Halloween one.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was good. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
They came upon a loud. I don't even know what word that was going to be. Loud.
The loud podcaster in the kitchen was shouting into her microphone.
We're going to have another signal so we can edit all of that out.
That's true.